Welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses with Glenn and Callum. And for those of you watching, you'll actually see Callum's letting the side down and not wearing his glasses today. Callum, what the hell?
I put my contact lenses in earlier today to record a video because the green screen problem, seeing it through the glasses. But I have got them with me, so I'm still wearing my contact lenses. For those of you who can't see that and you're watching the video version, why not subscribe? And then I promise I'll be back next time if you stick around with my glasses on and prove that I'm not a fraud. But also you can follow us on wherever you're listening, Spotify, anything like that. And on Twitter as well, at RTG Podcast. Give it a go. Why not? Get involved.
At RTG _
Oh,
podcast.
God, I'm a fraud for not even knowing that and not wearing my glasses. This is a disaster. Anyway, we'll move on.
I suppose we should carry on the theme of disasters, Callum. We've started poorly, and it links us nicely into Aberdeen's performance on Saturday, an absolute disaster. But as usual, we start with our one-word summary. Disaster is not mine. What's yours, though?
I'll carry on the right tradition and say it's just shite.
Shite!
Just there's no other word I can use to cover it, to be honest. Just shite.
I mean, disaster would have worked in well, but I'm going to choose gamble because Derek Mcinnes' gamble didn't pay off and we're out of the cup. 30-year wait to win the Scottish Cup continues. That means almost a whole generation has grown up not seeing us win the cup. 3 wins and 14 at Hampden and 8 straight defeats at Hampden to Celtic. Happy Monday. You can tell I'm still not over it.
Yeah, we said if we thought it'd be a good idea to not record on the day, but I just don't think it's got any word. Thinks we've just been stewing over it, and it's possibly just bad. It might even be worse than it was.
It might be, but at least those of you that are loyal enough to listen and watch us know we're normally quite honest with our opinions on how it goes. And I suppose hopefully those of you that do tune in kind of echo some of our sentiments that we'll convey over this next podcast here. So Callum, let's get straight into it. Was it another Hampden horror show, or were Celtic just too good for us?
It was a Hampden horror show. I remember watching them, and Celtic, they didn't exactly blow us out of the water. It was sort of like a wild period of the game where we conceded both goals and then we just never got back into it. It's not like they sort of went up the gears or anything like that and just completely smashed us out of the park. It was a Hampden horror show. But we're used to them. I say we're used to them. It doesn't make them any less painful to watch afterwards. At least I suppose we would have been down there. Probably might not remember some of the game. That would have been nice. But at least I suppose we didn't have the journey back and we could just be depressed at home. But at least we would have had a bit of a day out, which was,
in these current times, a day out would have been most enjoyable. But yeah, like you said, at least we didn't have to sit in the Hampden car park for a ridiculous amount of time waiting for the buses to leave. So yeah, every cloud, but the main cloud's still terrible, dark and depressing. Definitely. So my word was gamble. The gamble didn't pay off, and the main talking point when the team news came out was Sam Cosgrove's inclusion in the starting lineup. Obviously, probably Johnny Hayes not being included second to that. We will come to that point, but I just want to start on Cosgrove's inclusion. It didn't pay off, did it, Callum?
No, it didn't work whatsoever. I thought he was very effective when he came on against them, and he sort of ruffled some feathers and he looked sharp. But then somehow after playing half an hour and looking sharpish in that, he proceeded to look like he hadn't played football again for the length of time that he had. I don't know how that worked after actually coming on and doing all right. It just didn't work. I don't know whether he maybe started because Edmondson was maybe a bit shook up, but then at the same point, if he's fit enough to be on the bench, then he's fit enough to surely be involved at some stage. No, it didn't work. Or it didn't work out for us.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I know people will say, "Oh, he had his couple of chances in the opening exchanges." A fit Cosgrove maybe puts them away. I suppose we should highlight that. It's not all negative, but overall, we just look disjointed up top. Marley Watkins got punted out to the wing for some reason. He's looked effective in the middle, holding the ball up for Hedges and Scott Wright this season. Cosgrove, the ball just bounced off of him like a trampoline. It was just so ineffective. And the gap between Scott Wright, for somebody who was playing almost as like a number 10 in behind Cosgrove, the gap between him and Cosgrove at times was just so far, I felt Cosgrove just had no interest in coming back and helping the team out. Whereas, okay, Watkins hasn't been able to produce the goals, but he puts in a shift for that team. And I really feel we kind of missed that, from the defensive side of things. And you make a good point there, coming on and making an impact. Maybe, a lot of folks said, we shouldn't be changing kind of a winning formula, and we've kind of got that consistency. And it just felt that we just didn't have that fluidity throughout. But I do also think a large part of that was missing the pace and the flair of Johnny Hayes as well.
Yeah, I think at some point, obviously, Cosgrove will have to come back into the team, and he has now. But I don't think throwing him in for his first start in a semi-final when he's not started a game, like if he started a couple of games, played an hour or so and got that under his belt, but having played half an hour, I just don't think he was up for it. And you mentioned Hayes there. My confidence was absolutely gone as soon as I saw that. I don't know, I never knew I relied so much on Johnny Hayes, that confidence, but it sort of just disappeared in an instant. I even told you that. It was just absolutely dreadful. I'm gutted.
And I mean, and you do make a good point. Cosgrove has to come back. We can't bench a 20-goal season striker for the rest of the season but I saw on Twitter, people saying Cosgrove doesn't suit the formation that we're currently playing just now, especially if you're going to shoehorn Watkins out wide. However, I think the point you made on last week's show was quite intriguing when you look at how Sunday's game went. You mentioned not starting Cosgrove and Wright and using them as impact players. And okay, he's brought in Kennedy as cover for Johnny Hayes, but we could have put in Conor McLennan and used Kennedy in a more forward role, as he's a natural or more used to. We would have also allowed Cosgrove and Wright to make a similar impact as to what they did in the previous game against Celtic in the 3-3 draw. Obviously, that's not to say we'd have been in a similar situation. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, obviously, but it just didn't have the right feel to the team, I thought, throughout, until Cosgrove and Taylor came off. I know Taylor's coming off is not really of the same influence, but we looked better going forward. Yes, we still didn't score, as many people have pointed out. We didn't score with or without Cosgrove on the pitch yesterday, so it's not entirely his fault. But for a manager to make a gamble like that in a semi-final, which many a fan will have seen as our probably best opportunity in these last 8 meetings against Celtic, for me, it feels inexcusable.
Yeah, definitely. The word is gamble, because it was just taking such a chance on pinning your hopes on an unfit. Okay, he's a 20-goal season striker, but he's clearly not fit. He's clearly not on it. And when you've got like an international break as well, you could probably use that to sort of build up his fitness. And he could have just gone with sort of stick to it. Marley Watkins. Okay, he might not bag a goal, but he can bring all the other players into play. And Matty Kennedy as well. I thought he did okay in parts, but I just think he looked a bit off it as well. And to throw him in when he's not played for a couple of months, he's been playing right wing back before, but it's not even on the right. He's not a wing back by any means, but it's not even on the right where he'd been playing before. Throw him in a left wing back when he's obviously not up to speed either as well, against Celtic in a semi-final. It's just another gamble as well. And I just thought I would have liked Conor McLennan to come in, because he's looked good as well recently. Not only it's just he's actually fit, but he's genuinely looked very, very promising, and he looks not only good going forward, but also pretty decent defensively for as far as like wing backs go that aren't actually wing backs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he played that role against Celtic the weekend before. It is just highly frustrating. Like you said, Watkins, game before, we've spoke of his link-up play, but he's kind of bullied, but drew the centre half to him in that 3-3 draw, which allowed our wingers a bit more freedom. We didn't do that with Cosgrove, whether that was tactical or inability, open for debate there. But one thing that really frustrated me was last weekend, Scott Wright, get the ball down, run at Duffy, caused him all sorts of problems. Where was that yesterday? There was no directness until Cosgrove went off, and within about 5-10 minutes of him going off, we had the ball down, running at the Celtic defence, and we got in behind and Celtic made a couple of good blocks to deny the chance. I think it fell to Kennedy. I think he got the final shot away. But again, it's not saying that just because Cosgrove's on the pitch we resort to high balls. It just so happened to be that once he was off the pitch, I felt we were more direct. But I don't know, did you feel that with Cosgrove on the pitch we didn't have that directness?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it just seems to be like, okay, there's a sort of a big target man up there, and that sort of thing we'll do. And the fluidity wasn't there. It just all sort of seemed a bit disjointed. I think you said that to me before. Disjointed seemed to be, that would be a good word actually to start with instead of an expletive. But it's too late now. I think if a match fit Cosgrove goes in, then it probably doesn't disrupt it so much either. And he probably can sort of play the way Watkins had been playing, and it sort of sticks to that similar style. But obviously, because he's not up to speed, it just didn't work. It was painful. It was painful to watch.
Yeah, and we'll probably have to apologise for that expletive given the podcast where we used it with Tommy Hoban. Jonathan Main's 4-year-old was going around the house copying it, so we apologise, Jonathan, if your 4-year-old's swearing again.
Yeah, start them young. That's my only defence.
At least they know the true feeling of being a Dons fan.
That's true. Yeah, they won't grow up with hopeful and then be disappointed.
It's the hope that kills you ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true.
And we were hopeful before the game, I think it's fair to say. And like you said, when the team news came out and Hayes wasn't there, a lot of that hope and confidence evaporated. If the injury is as bad as expected, obviously he was going for a scan today, do you feel that'll be a huge blow for the rest of the season? And I know we kind of touch on this in the preview of Friday night's game, how this affects our season going forward.
Yeah, I've obviously been impressed with Johnny Hayes, but I didn't realise how much it sort of relied on him. And without him, the balance seems to be a bit off because he can obviously bomb up and down that side all day long, but he's equally as good in attack and defence, which is quite weird considering he wasn't a defender for a long part of his career. I think the sooner he is back, the better, but how long he'll be out for, obviously, we don't know yet. I'm hoping Greg Lee can come in, and obviously he's not even been fit yet. He's not played in 9 months. I'm hoping he can build up his fitness maybe through the international break, and it won't seem so much of a loss without Hayes there, and then hopefully he's back as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I suppose then if you're bringing Greg Lee in, you're keeping the 3 centre-halves as is?
I think so for now, yeah. Cause obviously, mentioned later on, but like Devlin, nobody knows how far off he is. So I'd say keep the 3 centre halves as is just now. Not much alternative, and I wouldn't want to put Ross McCrory in there because we need him in the middle of the park. And obviously, I would be happy if McGeoch could go in, and then if McCrory could drop to the back. But I wouldn't want Funso Wojo in there. Sorry, Belgian Pirlo.
But that's another point you make about losing McCrory out of midfield, because at times on Sunday he was playing at wing back, and we lost that impetus that we spoke about with having a McCrory and Ferguson up against the likes of Brown and Rogic, and we just kind of lost that midfield battle. Although Don Robertson wasn't really covering himself in glory, I think he forgot his cards for the Celtic team. The Scott Brown challenge on Marley Watkins, so obviously I think he's now pulled his hamstring. That wasn't even a foul, and Shane Duffy seemed to get away with persistent fouling all day.
Exactly. I don't know. Watkins took an absolute battering, but also on his leg when he went off. But he was also bleeding from the face as well. I don't know what had happened to him. It looked like he'd been through the wars, but yeah.
I suppose there's also that contentious decision which I think you highlighted, saying, well, the corner where Brown just shoves Cosgrove straight to the ground. But obviously you'd said, I think on Twitter, saying the ball wasn't in play, so you can't win a penalty for that. But
yeah, it's annoying. I wish he'd just blown the whistle and the ball had been in play when that happened, and he'd just gone for the penalty. But we can't rely on penalties. Also, that's another thing. As much as I'd like to have had it, we can't just keep relying on them, I suppose. But no, yeah. Don Robertson. I also thought it was a bit of a weird appointment to give him the semi-final, call him, get the other one, and then have Bobby Madden as like a behind the goal assistant instead of just
And
being in
Stephen playing
charge.
as well.
Yeah, I would have thought one of those two he would have got it instead of Don Robertson. It seemed odd. Or even Andrew Dallas would have maybe been a bit better. He's not great, but maybe a little bit better.
Clutching at straws here with SFA referees.
Yeah, that's true.
One player, I think, a lot of us were eager to see start. You not so, despite being one of his biggest fans, was Scott Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a quiet game for Scott on Sunday, but I kind of can't help but feel he wasn't actually helped with having Cosgrove in the team. At times during that first half, he was either our furthest player forward, or when he was playing in behind Cosgrove, like I touched on earlier, the gap between him and Cosgrove was so far that there was no opportunity to really get any sort of effective link up. That also combined with Cosgrove's lack of ability to hold it up, I felt on Sunday, in comparison to Watkins, but I suppose we should put that down to a bit of match sharpness. Were you a bit disappointed in Scott Wright, or do you think other factors contributed to him having a quiet game?
I to single out Scott Wright, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed in him. I was disappointed in all of them, but
I should say it's not a single out of him. It was just given his level of performance on Sunday, and the eagerness to see him start and get the Celtic defence cause them problems. We just didn't see it. So just something to highlight.
I know what you mean. There was one point I think he nicked in. I think it was Beaton this time. It was sort of similar when he nicked in off Duffy. Obviously, we didn't get a goal this time. But I suppose he was a bit quieter. But I think he also benefits with Marley Watkins being up ahead of him with hold-up play. And also, not only that, Marley Watkins will put in some of the dirty work that Scott Wright maybe wouldn't, because he's a bit lightweight. I don't think that's unfair to say. So I maybe benefit from that as well. And the hold-up play, again, it didn't come off for Cosgrove was having what my dad would call Billy Dodds touches. I never had the displeasure of watching Billy Dodds touches, but he seems to just always slag off any bad touch by calling it a Billy Dodds touch. You might be more aware of what that means.
No, it's not for me either. So maybe the older listeners and viewers will kind of get that reference, but for me, it was before my time, Billy Dodds, watching Aberdeen. I suppose we should look at the goals that we conceded. Ryan Christie's goal, it's a wonderful goal, I think. There's no taking away from that. I cannot believe I read on Facebook someone blaming Joe Lewis for that goal because he didn't get his hand up high enough. His hand was only horizontal. For all the takes and all the people to blame for that goal, I think Joe Lewis is the least of our concern.
I think once the shot's been hit, there's no chance anyone stop it. There's no way Joe Lewis is going to stop that. I think the problem lies with him actually getting the shot off. When we saw the goal, like when it first happened, I was really, really annoyed with Matty Kennedy because I felt he should have passed on Christie to McCrory and then he could have stuck with Rogic because obviously there was like the screen so he couldn't get round and to track Christie's run. So I felt he should have just passed him on and maybe Hayes would have done that. So I was a bit annoyed with Matty Kennedy and that didn't go away, that annoyance. I was very annoyed with the man.
But I think as well that first goal, you kind of look at when Christie gets the ball and turns, there's hesitation from both Considine and Taylor at going out to the ball. So there's no closing down. So Christie's got the chance to look up and think, why not? And we know what Christie can do. And, and it's come off. So that indecision from both of the defenders. But again, criticism surrounding Aberdeen goals seems to fall at Ash Taylor's door. But I don't think he was directly at fault for either goal. But yet, a cheap scapegoat for the Aberdeen fans is Mr. Taylor. But if we look at the second goal, Hoban should stop the cross. And Considine is just, I think he's got to do a lot better for me. He's caught under that ball and he's almost waiting for it to come on his foot. Either go at the ball and try and head it back towards where the cross has come from or hook it. I know there's a chance of it going in, but try and hook it away. But he's waiting for it to come across his body and hook it clear and take the ball where it's coming from. But obviously Elyounoussi's got the momentum of coming in and just gets in before him. So for me, from a defensive point of view, that goal was just an absolute nightmare and really not a good look so soon after conceding the first.
Yeah, it was sort of the nail in the coffin. As soon as that went in, I was like, it's game over. We're not getting back in this. I think it's a very difficult one for Constantine to defend, but I think the way you mentioned it, how he could have gone about it, it would have maybe been a bit more beneficial, even though there's the risk of the own goal, which I think probably was being in his mind. But at the same time, at least it's going in either way. So be as well taking a risk and try to sort of flick the header on. But we did not cover ourselves in glory defensively at all.
Yeah, I'd like to say it's my defensive knowledge in assessing what Constantine should have done, but I'll actually give the credit to Finlay Park, who broke that down brilliantly in our group chat when that goal went in, saying this is what should have been done. Because, I just felt straight away when I saw the first replay of how Constantine tried to clear it, I just thought that should have been dealt with a lot better. And obviously a lot of people said, well, Hoban should have stopped the cross in the first place. Joe Lewis is taken right out of the game with that cross. Tom Rogic, though, setting up the assist. That's 4 assists he's had against us in just 80 minutes. Thorn in our side once again.
I hate that man so much. Like, actually so much. I can't... There's not much I can think of him doing anything against anyone else. I seem to go AWOL. He couldn't get in the team, and then we play them twice in succession. He's all of a sudden back in the team and decides to turn up and do that. And I don't know what it is about him and against Aberdeen. It just there seems to be like players who just play well against certain teams, and we're unfortunate enough that someone like him it's us in sheer brilliance from him just on regular occurrences. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I'll be so delighted when he leaves Celtic, along with a host of other players, and maybe. Well, I was going to say maybe we have a chance, but I think we need a lot more than just a few Celtic players leaving. We'll maybe get onto that one in a minute. At 2-0 down, though, like you said, the game kind of just felt lost. It felt over. Rory actually pulled the plug out of the laptop, so I had it streaming through the TV. And to be honest, I was almost like, I don't really care at that point. It was great. I didn't have to endure the rest, but unfortunately I did. Yeah, one thing at 2-0 down, I kind of felt there was a lack of urgency on the pitch, but also off the pitch as well from Mcinnes. The changes obviously came in the 60th minute. Do you feel we could have done something sooner, maybe at halftime? I think it was you and Stuart possibly actually called the substitutions at halftime, but it took till the hour mark for them to be made.
Yeah, it does seem to be something that he is quite slow on substitutions. Not only that, but he also just doesn't understand the stoppages thing. Because I think someone said Edmondson was coming on as well. I don't know whether he was actually coming on, but someone did say he was coming on. I think it was AFC. Here we go on Twitter. Oh, I've pulled out my headset. This is all going badly. If anyone doesn't know, my camera just died. So I think he just he always makes changes so late. And I don't know why it takes him so long to see that they need to be made. I don't get it. I would have thought at 2-0 down in a semi-final, you would maybe gone, you know what, I think something needs to change here. But no, apparently not Mr. Mcinnes. Thanks, Derek. We're all sad now.
Yeah, I didn't want to win the Scottish Cup when we couldn't go anyway. But that's 6 wins in 42 games now for Derek McInnes. Well, I don't know why I said 6 wins now, because we didn't win on Sunday, but 42 games played and only 6 victories against Celtic. Do you think we have a problem against Celtic, or do you think there's a problem mentally with the players, or is it a managerial problem on the big game? I tweeted out at full time saying, once again, seeing Joe Lewis pre-match in the media, Hoban, there's lots of players talking up our chances and just don't turn up in that big game again.
Yeah, they always seem to try and talk the talk, but they never walk the walk. I would rather they were literally it was just radio silence, and then they just went out and won instead of giving us all this hope. And he also seems to, going into big games, he also likes to sort of change things, even though if things have been going well. Like we saw, obviously he had to sort of change some things to extent with Hayes dropping out, but sort of Watkins being up front. Okay, he's not the best goal scorer, but it had been working with sort of Hedges and right around him, and then he sort of upset the balance with Cosgrove throwing him in. It seems to be sort of, he likes to just change things before a big game and hope, like, spring a surprise and hope something happens. But I don't know if there's a mental block or something. So obviously Ferguson used to say, you have to learn to win in Glasgow to win anything, and it still stands to this day. But they just seem to not have that in them. Obviously, the difference in budget and things isn't great, but it doesn't help. But at the same time, there's no excuse for 6 in 42. That is pathetic in any.
But I think as well, like if you look at our Hampden record in general, the 3 wins have come against Morton, which was, in fairness, to be expected. Hibs, which we scored after 13 seconds, and then won in the end. And then obviously we all know what happened a couple of years ago, the 1-0 against Rangers. But till the other 11 games, it's pretty poor. Obviously you don't win it. You don't win a trophy for getting to a semi-final, but it's, our measure of success should be on trophies, not just getting to a semi-final in 3rd place. And I'm sick fed up of there just being kind of an acceptance of this. Like, oh well, it's Celtic, like, oh, we shouldn't, and that doesn't matter. We've got to learn to compete against teams like this. At the end of the day, I'd rather see Aberdeen win a trophy than just finish 3rd all the time.
Exactly. Well, actually, I was saying that to my Hearts supporting friends. They're currently in the Championship right now, but look how regularly they are actually first of all in Scottish Cup finals, not just semi-finals, but they're going and winning it. They're not doing much in the league, but I would so much rather have something to actually celebrate than just be like, oh, that's another good season, like without anything to actually celebrate. It doesn't mean anything. There's no trophies in the cabinet for that. And you might think, well, given the way Celtic are right now, and obviously Rangers as well, you might think, oh, we're asking a lot, but it's not ridiculous for a club of Aberdeen size to want to win a Scottish Cup more than once every 30 years, is it? And a League Cup.
And we shouldn't just be willing to accept this level of mediocrity just because the current managers improved us where we were from previous times. Yes, I know we've touched on, like, we've got an exciting brand of football this season, and it's not like we're both sitting here saying, Mcinnes needs to go just based on Sunday's result. But what we want to see is, we don't want to keep going out meekly to Celtic in semi-finals or just failing in Glasgow in these sort of games. We want to see effort. The Sporting Lisbon game, for example, that had a feeling of what if. We put up a decent level of performance. Ultimately, I know we failed there. But looking on Sunday, there was no kind of, oh, what if? It was like, oh, well, here we go again.
Yeah, but it's just, another thing is, okay, you can say about the budget as much times as you like, but other teams face sort of that sort of thing in other leagues, but you need to find a way to win. Like, no matter what, okay, it might not be pretty, you might not be able to match them quality-wise, but if your 11 players on the park work harder than every single one of them, fight for every ball, then the fact is there's more chance of you actually coming out on top. There needs to be you need to find a way to win, even if the odds are stacked against you. It's just... And
at the end of the day, also, this budget thing as well, Rangers have also got a bigger budget than us, but hasn't stopped us beating them in Glasgow in more recent times, including semi-finals. It just seems to be the other half that we struggle so badly against. Anyway, I feel a lot better for ranting.
I know, it's like therapy.
Yeah, although I suppose that we've just triggered a whole bunch of viewers and listeners now.
Yeah, we're not responsible for that. I'm sorry. You chose to tune in, and we're grateful for you, but we're sorry.
Yeah, also, like, we weren't responsible for building up the optimism pre-match as well.
Yeah, I didn't help that. I'm sorry about that as well. I'm just sorry for everything.
I suppose, though, we should try and look for some positives from Sunday's game. There's really not much to take. I kind of felt Lewis Ferguson was largely anonymous. Someone actually, I think it was Lewis Payton, messaged me and said, big game players didn't step up. I hear a lot of talk about Lewis Ferguson, Scotland squad and having a big future. He steps up a lot of the time on the big stage, but unfortunately we didn't see that on Sunday. But one player that has had a good game, and I know you want to rant about a chance, so this is where I'm building up to. Ryan Hedges, Brighton places, but failed to take a glorious chance in the first half.
Brighton Sparks does have a right leg. What is he on about doing that? Why did... Oh my God, right, okay. He took that chance. He tried to cut back on his left, and we all know he loves his left foot. And he loves to cut in and everything. But in a game like that, you need to have, at that level, you need to have the confidence to swing a right leg at it and get the shot off and not try and wait for the perfect angle. That was a good chance to hit a good shot against a rubbish goalkeeper. He got released by Craig Brown at Aberdeen. He's not good. We had one shot on target and... Right, yeah, we had one shot on target against Scott Bain, of all people. That one, Hedges should have just had to take it on his right foot. If you're at this level, you have to be confident enough to use your weaker foot. Obviously, it's not ideal at times, but on that chance, it's a glorious opportunity. It's a great ball from Scott Wright. And even if he doesn't hit it with his right foot, hit it first time with his left and just send it back from where it came. Try that instead of dilly-dallying on it. That infuriated me so much. And I've been a big fan of Ryan Hedges as well. It's just, if he uses his right foot there, and he needs to use it more often, let's be honest, then, that's a chance at 0-0, chance to go 1-0 up at Hampden. And then they've played on Thursday. They might not have the legs in them to sort of come back from that, but they just breezed us with those 2 goals, and that was it. It was just done. Oh,
yeah, and I think you say he has to have the confidence. I think at this level, it's absolutely criminal to be so one-footed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't talk. I'm so badly left-footed as well, but that I'd have probably done the same as Ryan Hedges in that situation. But for a player of his level, if he even gets that shot on target, and if you've got players running in on following that up, if Bain parries that, you're allowing someone to, potentially tap that in on the rebound. But to cut in and then not get away, there was a few times I noticed, even when he was out on the wing, he wanted to cut back inside and get onto his left foot to whip in the perfect cross. It's like I said, big chances, you've got to be able to take them, and we didn't really create that many clear-cut chances. So when you get opportunities like that against the likes of Celtic or in big games like that, you've got to be doing all you can to take them.
Yeah, 100%. It's the fact, that's the one thing that sticks in our mind throughout the whole game. Of that's the big chance, and he barely even got a decent shot off. And it's not even fact if he took it on his right and he ballooned it over the bar, then it's like, okay, he should have done better with the chance, but at least he took the chance. He barely even took it. It was just awful. I'm so annoyed about it. I've not even watched it back because it's just too painful.
Yeah, and another blow from the game as well was seeing Marley Watkins hobble off. Well, he was actually more helped off after that challenge from Scott Brown. Suspected hamstring injury. Johnny Hayes obviously we've touched on getting a scan for a groin injury. Looking ahead to Friday's game, but also the season going forward. I know we've got an international break coming up after Friday's game, so fingers crossed that the injuries to both aren't so severe, but worst case scenario, it's not looking good for us with 2 key players so far this season, maybe fair to say, picking up long-term injuries, potentially, obviously. Yeah,
it's definitely not good. And going into Hibs, probably, without both of them, you'd think, with the way Marley Watkins was carried off the pitch. It's not looking good, especially given the players who came in, their performance as well. Going into Friday, it's just feel a bit down about it. It's just, I feel genuinely sad, Glenn. I need help.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us felt like that, and I'm sure your slating of Ryan Hedges isn't going to help regular viewer Amy Reid's thoughts towards him as well. We might get a bit of backlash on that from her.
Yeah. After she was so complimentary about the last one as well. I'm sorry, Amy.
Yeah, I know. We're doing well so far. Getting a lot vented off our chest, but I feel better for it, and hopefully those of you watching and listening also feel better for kind of someone else doing the venting for you. And we've hopefully made some balanced views, as balanced as can be, on the back of another disappointment at Hampden. However, it's back to league action and the battle for third place, I suppose, hopefully better. We welcome Hibs. So joining us to look ahead to Friday night's game, we're delighted to be joined by Hibs fan and Dominic Malonga enthusiast Michael Monan. Michael, welcome to the show.
All right, lads. Good evening.
Good evening. Suppose we better get the touchy subject out of the way. A disappointing result for yourselves, also for us as well, the weekend at Hampden. Are you expecting a big reaction from the Hibs side on Friday night?
Well, obviously, losing a semi-final is hard enough, but to lose it to our oldest and most fiercest of rivals it's not ideal. But it's a great opportunity to try and bounce back in the league where we've started well, and Aberdeen are our biggest competitors in terms of getting that third spot in the league. So we've lost one big game, and now we've got a perfect opportunity to try and atone for it by doing well on Friday.
And what do you think? Do you think that's going to be a message that Jack Ross kind of gave in the dressing room at full time, or do you think there'll be some harsher words chosen
On Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think he would have said much, to be honest. I think the players know. There's a lot of players that have played at the club for a long time. They know what it's like. A few Hibs fans in the squad, so obviously they know what it's like for the supporters, how the supporters would have felt. So I think when emotions are running high like that, nothing would be said. I think Jack Ross would have probably stayed, especially to the younger people in the folk whose first semi-final that is just remember how you feel and don't let it happen again. And I think that's the best way to move on from a defeat like that in such a big game.
Yeah, good words there. Callum, do you think those sort of words have been kind of felt from Mcinnes, or do you think he maybe has a few harsher words to say? Because obviously it's another disappointing result for us. And we also need a reaction on Fridays. As Michael alludes to there, Hibs are our biggest competitors for third place, and we'll also want a reaction.
Yeah, I think Mcinnes will probably echo some of that. And obviously it's a huge game, but some of the blame does lie at his doorstep, so he can't be too harsh given his team selection as well. Mm-hmm. So I think it probably will be more of a case looking forward to bouncing back immediately. There's not much point dwelling on it. And bounce back, and what better opportunity have you got? It's a huge game, and that would really give us a big boost going into the international break as well if we get a good result against Hibs.
Yeah, and as we go into this game, in both sides haven't been at their clinical best. I would say more so through the season, Hibs have looked the better side going forward. Callum, I think both of us have alluded to our lack of goal-scoring ability throughout. I'm hoping this podcast is going to work like last time when we said we didn't score enough goals, and I think we banged in 4. Defensively as well, both teams have had their ups and downs and had some calamitous moments. And Michael, we'll start with you and Hibs. Do you think Friday night's a good start for the likes of Nisbet and Deutsch to get back under some more consistent performances up top?
I hope so, but to be honest with you, I don't think they played badly on Saturday. I just think Craig Gordon had the game of his life. Nisbet's head on the first half, I don't know how he saved that. I don't even think he knew how he saved it. He saved that after the game. So, and then Doidge obviously scored, and then Nisbet with the penalty. So it's not as if they've not been creating chances. It's just on Saturday a couple of them never went in. But I don't think there's a doubt.
Sorry, if you look back to the Ross County game as well, that was another game. Hibs will probably feel there were some drop points there, lots of chances created, but nothing taken.
Absolutely. I think we had 27 shots.
Mm-hmm.
And about 12 or 13 on target and couldn't score. But again, another day you're winning 4 or 5-0. So you just need to try and turn one of them into a goal.
Yeah, and I suppose that's kind of been our problem as well, Callum. Dundee United game, obviously Michael's using the Ross County game there as an example. We had that at Dundee United failing to turn opportunity into goal. Marley Watkins' potential hamstring injury, so I guess we could see another change up top. What are your kind of expectations for us goal scoring going into Friday night? Cosgrove frustrating on Sunday, which we've already talked about from Sunday's game. A bit of a dilemma up top?
I would expect probably Edmondson to come back in. I would probably expect Cosgrove to keep his place now that he's played against Celtic start of the game and try and build that fitness, but he has to look sharper. You said it to me, the word we've been using is donkey. He was just so off the pace at times, and there's one point he had the shot on his left foot, blutered it into the ground instead of playing an open man on the right, and we'll speak about that. It's just, I think Edmondson will come in, and I'm hopeful because he's looked really sharp and in the spells he's played in. Obviously grabbed a couple of goals as well. Unlucky with that injury. I think that's possibly why he didn't start as well. Maybe still a bit shaken from that. But I think Edmondson comes in and maybe it might work well with Edmondson and Cosgrove. You never know. It could be Edmondson and Cosgrove versus Doidge and Nisbet and see what comes out on top.
Yeah, but defensively, Hibs have kind of not turned up in the second halves. Michael, I think it's one thing I said to you. What's Hibs' problem with second halves? Although you do have 3 Scotland squad players since Ryan Porteous never got capped. I won't call him an international yet. Defensively, do you think Hibs have some problems there, or are you happy so far with how they've been going this season?
To be honest with you, I think part of the reason why we're obviously sitting third in the league. I know Aberdeen have got a game in hand, but it's against Celtic, so I think we can concede that. So we'll say Hibs are third in the league, and I think a large part of that is because of the way we've defended. I think we've defended pretty solidly. One of the only teams to take points off Rangers this season, and I think the defence, especially the goalie, was a massive part in that. So I think the problem we've had is we've went in front, and instead of just trying to score more, we've sat in, and especially in midfield and defence, they don't know how to defend. Like, just defend. Like, our best form of defence is to try and score as many goals as we can, rather than just stop them from scoring. So I think that's why it seems worse than what it probably is.
Yeah, and I suppose Hibs games always seem to be relatively high scoring, but Callum, I suppose we've seen that before. Sitting in and inviting pressure doesn't always work.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I've gone, oh yeah, that sounds like a problem where I'm recognised.
Yeah.
It's so
I saw your
terrible.
face light up there.
Yeah, the game management, I think they decided to call it. It's so painful. Instead of just going and killing the game off, they'll try and just hold on and sit onto a goal lead. And the amount of times, it's so painful to watch. But yeah, it's definitely a familiar problem for us as well.
But I suppose, Callum, as Michael says, Hibs have kind of been able to score more goals than their opponents, regardless if they're letting anything in at the back. But we've not had that ability so far this season. But defensively, we haven't looked great. Obviously, we've discussed the goals conceded on Sunday. I know one was a wonder strike, but the second goal, we didn't really cover ourselves in glory. Ash Taylor only lasting an hour. Johnny Hayes out injured for this week, possibly. We haven't heard yet the extent of his groin injury. He'll be a big loss for if he is out for Friday's game, but also the season going forward. How do you see us lining up defensively on Friday?
I would like to see Greg Lee come in and play at that left wing back role as opposed to Matty Kennedy. Obviously, he's not even a wing back. He's not a full back, anything like that. He's full on a winger, and he's obviously got experience playing right wing back. But shoving him in at left wing back against Celtic was a big mistake, and I don't think I don't have much confidence in him defending against Martin Boyle, to be honest. So I'd rather Greg Lee, a more defensive minded player who might be able to handle him a bit more. I think that's the way I'd go for it. I think they've got to keep the 3 centre-halves as it is. I suppose Devlin's back in the squad, but I don't know how close he is to actually being able to start a game. Obviously, it's been so long since he even did. So I'd say hopefully Greg Lee's on that left-hand side, and then I'll be a lot happier with him.
So you're still keeping Taylor, and I suppose you do mention Devlin there. Managed to make his way onto the bench at the expense of Ronald Hernandez. What's going on there? That's a weird one.
It's absolutely mental. Ronald Hernandez just can't work his way in at all. And then Devlin seemed to come out of nowhere, risen from the crypt. I don't have a clue what was happening there. I honestly couldn't even tell you what was wrong with him to start with, but he's just been AWOL for so long. But it sort of does tell you all you need to know about how Ronald Hernandez is getting on with Nike Devlin sneaking in the squad before him.
Yeah, and Michael, I suppose, our defensive injuries, and obviously Hayes being such a key player to us, that should give the Hibs front line a lot of encouragement, especially we've seen how damaging their pace can be. Hayes has that in abundance, so possibly an advantage there for Hibs if they can kind of run at our back 3.
Of course, but it depends on how we play. I think if we have a goal, we'll cause trouble. But my worry is that we'll try and avoid defeat, and by and just sort of sit in and try and get you on the break rather than taking the game to you. But that remains to be seen, obviously. I'm not sure if Nisbet will play because the news came out today that sadly his dad died last Wednesday or last Thursday. So obviously he played on Saturday, but I don't know what, obviously with the penalty miss as well, how he is sort of mentally as well.
Yeah, obviously that's very sad news to hear. I'll touch on Kevin Nisbet in a while, but just want to go back to that point you made there about how you feel Jack Ross will set up. As a Hibs fan, I'm kind of asking for your opinion on Hibs fans as a whole. Would you like to see Hibs come out and go for the win, or would you be happy if you guys just sat in and just came away with a point and gone, that's fine, we're still ahead of Aberdeen, let's kick on?
I think you'd be hard pushed to find any Hibs fan that just wants to sit in. Because, well, ever since I've supported Hibs, all the best managers, McLeish, Mowbray, Collins, John Hughes, Stubbs, even Neil Lennon to an extent, we all have to be attacked under them all. Our way of playing was going forward, not sitting in. We've never had the players to sit in. Like at any of those eras, we've always won games by trying to score more goals than the other team rather than trying to prevent conceding goals as a means of not losing.
And Callum, do you think from an Aberdeen point of view, if Hibs decided to come out and play football instead of sitting in like many teams do when they come up north, do you think that would suit us better and allow the likes of Hedges and Wright to potentially get in behind the Hibs defence?
Yeah, it'd definitely make for a more open and entertaining game anyway. It's not something you see, as you said, a lot of teams coming up tawdry and coming out and having a go at us. And it would be, on one hand, I'm like, yes, it'll be brilliant. So it'll be nice and open. It gives the players you mentioned a chance. But then I'm thinking, oh dear Lord, our defence might just collapse. It's very possible. And especially with, sort of, as mentioned, all the guys mentioned before, Doidge, Boyle, that lot. That's the sort of, it's like double-edged sword. I'm a bit sceptical about it.
Hibs Aberdeen games have the potential of going one or two ways. Either really exciting, free-flowing football,
or the most boring thing ever.
Yeah, right. Exactly, Michael. So hopefully we get the former, and obviously myself and Callum will be hoping for an Aberdeen win. Just briefly, you touched there on Kevin Nisbet, Michael. There's been a lot of talk on him this season gaining a Scotland call-up. Obviously, Steve Clarke names a squad tomorrow. We're recording this on Monday night. Would you be happy to see him be another Highby getting into the national setup?
I think he deserves it. I like how Steve Clarke plays players based on how they're playing, rather than just their name or whoever. Like if they play for a bigger club, perhaps down south, he plays players that are playing well, which I think is what a national manager should do. He's the Scotland's Premier Division top goal scorer, so I don't see why he doesn't deserve it. Whether he plays is a different matter, because I can't see Steve Clarke playing any more than one up front, and he's obviously going to pick Dykes. So I don't think he'd get in the team, but I think he would be deserving of a call-up.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the likes of Shanklin getting a call-up from what he's done this season in comparison to Nisbet, there's certainly no reason why he doesn't deserve a call-up. But like you said, I think for the Serbia game, he probably wouldn't get a game, but obviously Dykes is suspended for the First Nations League game, so potential there for Nisbet.
Shows how much I can.
You've got Porteous, who's trying to catch up with Considine's caps as well, so maybe he's got a chance there.
He's got about 20 years of a chance to get up there, but
good to see Hibs fans are still not over Considine getting a cap before him.
I admit, he played well when he came on, but he's approaching retirement, as you know. How old is he?
33.
Yeah. Well, international football retirement, perhaps.
True. Well, actually, it's a good point you made about Nisbet and some of the players in the squad. Another player I'd have in ahead of is Callum Patterson. I don't even know what Callum Patterson's position actually is. He's Mr. Utility Man, and yet he seems to be thrown on up top and everything. He started off playing at Hearts, so a right back. I don't have a clue. So I think definitely I'd rather have Nisbet in ahead of him. And also, I suppose he's playing in the same league as Shanklin and on better form. So why would he not be in ahead of him?
Yeah, and I suppose these are all talking points. We're recording a Scotland special on Wednesday, which will be released at the beginning of next week. So for those of a Tartan Army persuasion, feel free to tune in to that. Just back on Friday night's game, Michael, given the result Hibs had at the weekend, how crucial, and CALUM'S is obviously the same from an Aberdeen perspective, but how crucial is it that there's a positive result, or would you also say you're looking for a positive performance as well from Friday's game, Michael?
Of course. I always like to see Hibs play positive. And I would be saying that if we'd won on Saturday as well. And though, having said that, both teams, both sets of players are coming into off the same thing. Like, I know we lost a derby and you got beat from Celtic, but a professional footballer sees it as losing a semi-final. Mm. That's how they see it. It doesn't matter who it's against. They've lost the semi-final, an opportunity to get to a final. So from that perspective, it's an even playing field in that regard. So it's whoever responds better. And I think that if we have the players to hurt Aberdeen, and if we play the way I think we should play and have a goal and play openly, that's when we've had the most success, then I don't see how we can't get something.
Callum, you kind of echo those thoughts from an Aberdeen perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely right about it's a lot about who reacts better mentally. Because it is, yeah, as you said, it is just losing a semi-final to them, I suppose, and it's a chance to get to final, chance to get silverware. I would hope that, well, obviously each manager would be able to get them up for it and things, and be straight on focus with that, focus on the next game ahead. But I'm hoping Mcinnes obviously gets the edge over that. And I think we can take the game to Hibs, fingers crossed. But it's just that defence. Oh boy, oh dear Lord, I'm quite worried.
My biggest worry for Friday is obviously the likeliness of how much we've got to change our squad, given the injuries picked up, and how that will affect our team as a whole. We saw on Sunday, changing a winning team has an effect. We didn't really start very well, and the game was over before it really even began. So hopefully, if we have to make these changes, we can start a bit better than Sunday and not be out of the game again by half time like we've been a few times this season.
Yeah, I think that would be ideal.
Exactly. But Michael, just as kind of we wrap up, it's always nice when we have guests from the opposition team to come on and give us a more balanced view and opinion instead of myself and Callum just rambling on. How do you feel Hibs' season has gone so far, and what's your kind of expectations for the rest of the season?
I think you'd have to be very, very harsh to say we've not started well. Obviously, excluding Celtic and Rangers, best of the rest. I know you've got that game in hand, as I said earlier, but it's against Celtic, so you probably get beaten that. So Friday, it's a good old-fashioned 6-pointer, and we'll know where we are, because when we played with Easter Road, I didn't think there was much in the game. There was a moment of madness by Martin Boyle, something he's never done before that, never done since, and I hope he never does again. And that was the difference between the teams. So I think we're very, very evenly matched, and I think third in the league November time is a good start in terms of where I want us to be coming into the season. I think it'll be between Hibs and Aberdeen, fluctuating between third and fourth between now and whenever the season finishes, probably in about 10 years, the way the world's going. And just hope for more of the same.
Perfect. And Callum, do you kind of agree with Michael that Friday's game's kind of got a feel of a 6-pointer to it already, as he alludes to, and Sunday's kind of alluded to, the game in hand against Celtic doesn't really bode well for us in gaining points on Hibs. So we've already got the advantage over them once this season. We've got the advantage over them in the transfer market. Would it be nice to do it again on Friday?
That was mean to bring that up. Come on. Off the back first semi-final defeat against Hearts as well. That is a kick a man when he's down. But no, I think it's a good point. It is a 6-pointer already, and even the first one, because we'd obviously not played games for a couple of weeks, that was a huge game again. It just seems to be we play Hibs in 6-pointers. I don't know what's going on, but I think it will be like that for the rest of the season, because it looks like there's already a decent gap between like sort of third, fourth, and then the rest. So it will just basically be Celtic, Rangers, then us two in our own mini league, and then the rest. So yeah, every game against them is huge this season, and I'm hoping that we come out on top on all of them. But yeah, bit skeptical.
Well, here's hoping we do get the advantage, and I think you make a good point there, Callum. We've kind of created our own mini league, and it'll be a case of these games against Hibs will be crucial, but also not dropping points against the so-called lesser teams. You look at, we drop points against Dundee United when Hibs drop points to Ross County. Both teams will view it as drop points, but equally they'll have also viewed it as missed opportunities to gain on their rivals for third place. Looking forward again to Friday, we're just going to end by doing our one-word summary or preview, really, instead of doing our terrible predictions. So, Callum, we'll start with you. What would be your one-word summary for Friday's game?
Yeah, I just said it. I'm going to use the word skeptical. It's going to be my one word. Michael, what are yours?
I'll go for hopeful.
I look terrible now.
Go for hopeful.
Oh, well, you know what, after the weekend, it's a game that I'm just now Monday and really struggling to get in the mood for, and I'm hoping by Friday we'll feel a lot more positive about the game. So my word will be arsed, because right now it's difficult to be up for the game, but hopefully by Friday I feel more motivated, and you never know, if Mcinnes can pull over another tactical masterclass over Jack Ross, then we'll have something to be a bit more positive about. I know third place doesn't put a trophy in the cabinet, but hey-ho, it's something to start building the momentum up again. So that wraps up our preview for Friday night's game, Aberdeen v Hibernian. Hopefully you've all enjoyed this week's episode. Michael, thanks very much for taking the time out to join us on this episode of Red Tinted Glasses.
No problem, thanks for having me.
And good luck for Friday, and hopefully you don't get the result you're after.
Thanks, I hope I do.
Callum, thanks again, and we'll be back next week.
Brilliant, thank you very much for listening.